New ballast, old trees. Stay tuned. So today we are going to use quite a lot of this. This is ballast materials from Woodland Scenics in 4 different colors. But let me just briefly explain what I'm going for here. You can see in this old picture that some of the tracks are darker than the others, or rather the ballast is, because this is stone ballast for the mainline tracks. While sand is used for the other tracks. So eventually at the station you'll see that the mainline tracks will be dark brown, while this whole area will be in sand ballast. And I have a few more pictures here. You can clearly see the difference between the darker mainline tracks and the much lighter sand ballast. Of course, Woodland Scenics is not the only brand. You can get ballasting materials from all kinds of suppliers. I have previously used this homegrown Danish product from Hobby Trade. Not sure it's still available, but as you can see, it's kind of reddish. And I think that is what you would prototypically see in a Danish context. So the closest thing will be this brown from Woodland Scenics, combined with a little black and a little of this grey version. Just when you just lay the ballast, it would usually be this color, but breaking dust and general weathering will give it a brownish reddish color after a while. So I used this product in previous projects. I'll show you some pictures here now on the screen how that worked out. And I've also earlier used sand, just plain sand, sifted and used for a diorama like this. But this time around I'm going to approach it a little differently. So previously I've mainly used wood glue, PVA glue to fix the ballast. You can also use scenic cement, of course. But this time around I'm going to try a solution with Liquitex. And the reason I would like to try this is that I saw in the Boomer diorama series how he uses Liquitex, and the argument is that it dries a bit differently, so there's still some flexibility in the track afterwards, and it's easier to clean up your points afterwards if ballast went where it shouldn't go. When you use hard glue, it dries to a complete hard surface, and it can be quite a struggle to remove the ballast again if you need to. Okay, so let's see how it goes. Now the whole process starts with a bit of weathering of the tracks. I give them a layer of burnt umber, and I immediately wipe off the excess paint from the top of the rails. Now something new, at least for me, is this ballast spreader. This one is from Process, but there are other similar products from other brands. And it's a really clever little mechanism. It's gravity operated, so there's really nothing to it. You can get sort of extra bells and whistles in the form of a small wagon and stuff like that, where you can mount the spreader, but I don't have that, and I don't think it's really necessary. So since this is the first time I give this a try, I laid out a piece of loose track here, and you can see that how I fill it with fine buff ballast here from Woodland Scenics. The finer ballasts has sort of an easier flow out of the machine, and you can see that I actually started out with a mistake here. I went the wrong way, but at first, but the spreader is a clever thing, because if there's no room for the ballast to come out of the spreader, it simply won't. And giving a bit of a tap to make sure that the ballast on the sleepers fall down between the cracks. So now it's time for the real thing. Again, fine buff ballast from Woodland Scenics. And this time I've learned from my mistakes, so I only go in one direction here. This time I am using a flat brush to distribute the ballast evenly and remove it from the sleepers. You can tap and you can brush. Different ways to do this. Now it's time to wet the ballast with isopropanol. I use a 70% solution, and here comes the glue mix, matte from Liquitex, and water. Okay, now to something a little more complicated. This time I moved to the diamond crossing, and that is part of the main line. So here I am using the darker medium ballast, and here I can't use the ballast spreader, so instead I'll have to do it the old-fashioned way with brush and quite a lot of patience. And again, the same procedure, wetting the ballast with isopropanol and fixing it with the solution of matte Liquitex. I went over the area again with an airbrush to give it some weathering, and if you look at old pictures from the age of steam and diesel, you'll see that there's very often this characteristic stripe down the middle of the track, so I tried to replicate that, and again remove all excess paint from the top of the tracks. There's one area where I have had a bit of a challenge, and that is connection with these Piko A-Tracks, where I have the drives underneath, because you can see the hole that I had to make in the base plate was quite significant. So I tried to work around that. I put some tape in some places, but I still have these gaps, so I came up with the idea of putting just a little bit of foam down here, and that seems to do the trick. And I cover it with ballast, and you can't really see it, so that's what I'm going to do now. So this solution doesn't seem to interfere at all with the mechanism of the point. which of course is exactly what I was hoping for. I think most of us are probably a bit intimidated when we are ballasting points because, well, they are delicate, and you don't really want any troubles in the future with ballast being caught between, you know, the different parts of the point. And as always, when you do something on the layout, you suddenly become more aware of all the shortcomings of the landscape around it. So I experimented a little with some shrubbery and bushes around this part of the layout. So I think that's all the ballasting I can cope with right now. It's one of these things you have to do it in small and incremental steps, otherwise it'll probably drive you mad. So let's do something completely different now. So as I am building the new layout, I keep finding stuff that I have stored away from earlier iterations, and here's some trees that I made 10-15 years ago, something like that. It's not that they're that great, but they have never been shown on the channel before, and I think I can revamp them a little. Some of them have this clay foot because yeah, I thought that was a good idea at the time. Anyway, let's freshen these up and see where I can put them on the new layout, at least temporarily. So the idea here was to have something resembling an oak tree, and I found one here before I added all the homemade flock here. But I think now I can try to improve it a little by adding some sawdust and maybe giving it a fresh spray of color as well. We'll see about that. As you can see, the base layer here is homemade flockage made of foam. But I find that you get a better result if you cover that with another layer of finer material. It looks much more like leaves. And the thing is, you can make this very easily yourself, and I promised in an earlier episode that I would show you how. There are tons of how to do it videos out there on YouTube, so this is just you know, a quick summary of a very basic method. Sawdust, finely sifted, and then acrylic color. You can use oil colors as well, it just takes longer to dry, but acrylics is just fine. Add a bit of water and the sawdust will absorb this mixture surprisingly fast and evenly. As you can see here, we're ready now to spread it out in one of these tin foil things for it to dry. You should give it ample time to dry fully, maybe a couple of days, and you can stir it around while it's drying, just to avoid clumps in the product. And after it's fully dried, you can put it in a small container like this one, and voila, you suddenly have a number of different shades and colors ready for your tree project. So here we are again, back to the tree where we left it. So it's now simply a question of adding sufficient leaves to the tree. Another thing you can do to add variation to your trees is, of course, to treat them with a light dust of different green shades. And if you make enough variation here, you can see that you will get quite different expressions. There's a darker tree and a lighter tree here. And as a final touch, you can put some of this extremely fine blend turf material from woodlands on top of the trees, but only sparsely. And the thing is that it's quite bright green, as you can see, but when you apply it to only the top of the trees, it will mimic sort of sunshine that reflects on the top of the trees. And here you can see the same two trees again, different colors, but with the same sparkling sunlight on top. And with all that, I think we are approaching the end of the episode. There is, however, just one more thing I want to do. I found that I needed a little more light on the outside of the fascia plate here, so I added some LED lights to the ceiling in the train room. Lights installed. End of episode. If you hang around, you can see some running trains, like the open PB wagons behind me. I just weathered them recently. If you liked the episode, consider leaving a like, subscribe, hit the bell button, and hope to see you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you.